All right, figured I'd do a random one. So again, for the gram, I want to do something that's a little more exciting, creative, moody, dramatic. So I want to do something like Christmas related at night with Christmas lights and neons and all the good stuff. So I'm using Midjourney to generate my backplate. So for the prompt, I am just doing something simple. So I'm going to do a red Lamborghini parked in a busy city street at night during Christmas time. So now we're just going to see what Midjourney gives me in terms of options. And let me kind of crop my screen a little bit so the whole recording could be seen. So there we go. All right. Let's see. All right, this one's kind of nice looking. Really like this one as well with the composition of the snowbank in the foreground. This one's kind of interesting as well because it's really tight on the car with very shallow depth of field. So what I'm going to do is just try to generate a few more options and see what we come up with. Since this is kind of like a waiting game, I'm just going to press pause on the recording until we get more previews. All right, got more. Let me just refresh again. Okay, so we could keep this going, but honestly, for the sake of just getting something out the door real quick, I'm gonna go with this one. I really liked how this one looked. So what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna zoom out by 2, just give me a little bit of bleed on it. So I'm gonna wait for these zoom options to generate. All right, so there's a bunch of these options, and I really like this one. So the other thing I'm going to try to do, this sometimes works, this sometimes does not work, and that's to remove the car. So it's been a while since I did this, but let me see here. I think it's editor. So if I click on editor, I could literally mask out the car. This way I don't have to clean plate it. So we'll do something like this. So I'm just going to say busy street at night during Christmas time. So now we just see what this does in terms of options. My goal is to use 2 assets in the end, one with a car, one without a car. Sometimes Midjourney keeps wanting to add a vehicle, so I might just be better off doing it myself in Photoshop. So as you can see, no matter what, it just adds it. So what I'll do is I'm going to select this. I'm just going to click upscale. I'll do subtle and creative just to see what the options are going to be. And we'll see what we use for the final. All right, both options are done. So let's see here. This was the creative upscale. And then this was the subtle upscale. So let's see which one I like more. I kind of like the creative one more. This is a little less distracting. Granted, it doesn't really matter, but this looks cool right here. This one with all the little lights. They're actually both nice. But this one has a little more trash in the foreground. This one's a little cleaner. So I'm going to go with this one. So I'm just going to download it. Now, the next step for my AI workflow is Magnifica. I use this thing called Magnifica, and well, that's not it. Hold on, I gotta remember what I used to upscale it. There it was Magnifica, but Magnifica AI. So what I'm gonna do is just choose the Magnifica upscaler and just go to downloads and choose my little red Lambo and just click upscale. I don't want to really mess with these settings right now. I'm just going to leave it at default ×2 scale because I don't need anything too crazy. And I don't really like adding prompts because it actually makes it weird. It sometimes will add another car into the environment. So for my workflow, I just leave it as is and see what it comes up with. I just kind of like the idea of it adding more detail to the image as is. So I'm going to pause it while it does this thing. All right, now this is done, and here you can kind of see this was the before, and this is after. So as you can see, it really helps just really add little fine details to the shot. And that's kind of what I want. It's just something that helps take it to the next level of AI. It's still not photo real, but it is a little more interesting to look at. So now that that's done, I'm just gonna go ahead and save it as a JPEG because I don't really care to work with PNGs within 3D Max. So now the next step is just to open 3D Max and start working through that. All right, the one thing I kind of was testing and it did work. It did work not too bad at all. So creating a clean plate of the car. So I opened this up in Photoshop Beta because now they also have the like the AI add-ons. I created a quick little mask of the car and I generated a prompt saying remove the red car. So these are the options it gave me. There's this option, there's this option, and then there's this option. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with this one, then I'm gonna duplicate it and look at these other options because what I want to do is feather off as much of the backplate as possible. So I'm just gonna take a look at what it does in terms of areas it fills, if you will. So this one, remove that. Kind of does a nice job removing more over here. So I'm going to feather that in as much as possible. There we go. Feather that off. So I'm just going to feather the roof off a little bit. There we go. See this? I like to leave the original shadow so that way I don't have to really focus on rendering a shadow. I could steal what's already there. It's just work smarter, not harder kind of logic. So now I'm going to duplicate this again, move it on top, and I am going to just click generate again. Like give me a few more options. And what I'm trying to do is make a clean plate, at least on the edges and corners of where the CGI car is going to be, as well as the windows, whatever you could see through the glass. Ideally, you're not going to have the original plate there. So perfect. This is a nice one too. So I'm going to use this one, take that off. And then as you can see, the trick is just feathering in as much of a clean plate as possible, like that. So just going to keep that, remove that. Let's see. All right, I really like how that's looking. We're going to duplicate this again. Let me see here, prompt. City, street, okay. I'm just going to type in busy city, street at night during Christmas. And see what this does. I just want to fill the last little bit of probably like right here. And after that, I'm happy. It's good enough for me to render into. So this is kind of like a miscellaneous last addition to my clean plating stage, and that's just quickly letting AI do it. Now if it's a real job, you know, that it has to be really done properly, that's where you manually do it. But if you get something quickly using AI, why not? So as you can see, we're getting really close. We got a little bit of something over here, and we'll see at this point what is rendering and what we could get away with, if you will. So let's do that. I'm just gonna save this, same directory, just name it a clean plate. So city, street, clean. There we go. All right, now time for the 3D Max stage. All right, now we got 3D Max open, so time to actually set up the rest of this and see where we end up. So looking at the backplate res, it's 4928 by 3712. So actually, I think I screwed that up. Let me see. 4928 by 3712. All right, so it is like a 1.333 aspect, kind of. All right, so there's that part. Now what I will do is put the full plate into my my viewport background, because I actually do want it kind kind of see what we have in terms of the placeholder car. The stand-in vehicle is very nice for kind of faking perspective, because with AI, it's hard to guess the lensing when it comes to like a real life lensing. So I kind of guesstimate of what it could be. So this is definitely a wider lens. So let's go like 28 and see what we get here. So I guess we'll do the backside of the car as well. So let's do something like this. And what I'm trying to do is match up the wheels the best I can. So 28, maybe like a 32, a little less distortion, just to get it planted. Now, keep in mind, we are working with a clean plate, so it's the best to our ability with planting it, and then we could kind of fake it. And since it is for social media, it's not like a big project rendering. There's a lot of stuff we could get away with faking. So we'll see. We'll see what that does. So, okay. There's that. And just like the previous video, I'm going to put the backplate into my environment slot. So pressing 8 opens up this window. Now I'm just going to click on none, bitmap, and throw it into the directory. So maps, general, bitmap, city, street, clean. That's what I want to play with. All right, throw it in here. I want to do a screen, no blur, 15. Perfect. Alt B. I'm going to click this button. This just kind of makes it gray everywhere. And then in the bottom right, I want the viewport image to be there. Okay, so there's the backplate. So now what I want to do is the ground. As always, create a little ground plane. Throw that little sucker on there. All right, camera map per pixel. Select the camera. Texture bitmap, just like before. City, street, clean. 0 blur. 180. Legacy. Black. There we go. Throw that one on there. And then I am just going to kind of edit the size of this. So there we go. Right away, vary properties, -1 for effect alpha, done. Now, last but not least is to start a foundation for light. So I am going to use an HDRI I shot. This one was in Detroit. It was nighttime, Christmas City. It doesn't get any better than that. Not exactly the same reflections, obviously, but we could get away with it. It doesn't necessarily always have to be apples to apples. It's just something that's decently similar to give off the vibe. So let's see what this ends up looking like. All right. So this one, you'll kind of see what it was. It's only issue here is we have this obnoxiously large red LED thing happening. So what I might do for the moment is use option 2, which it was also close up. It had a lot of lights. However, maybe that red glow is just going to be a little too distracting. But I'll take a look at it in a minute. Okay, so this one might be a better option for me. So what I'll do here is now go to inverse gamma and make it like 0.9. I want to crush it a little bit more. So, all right, now it's time to take a look at what we got. Let's turn on the preview. All right, and there we go. We're getting a preview. So now I'm just going to bump up my light intensity like 30. Let's go to 20. I'm going to click invisible, because at this point, I just want to see how the car feels. Make sure it feels a little more natural to the environment. It was kind of like dark and moody. So 10, 8. So as you can see, we have this really bright highlight from the light post in the HDRI, and there's nothing here to help sell that. So what I'm doing is just gently rotating the HDRI just to feather it off. Now see, what's looking cool here is I'm just getting little specks of nighttime lights. Yeah, not the same lights, but it doesn't feel bad. So I don't hate it. What I'm gonna do is just rotate the HDRI just a little more just to see what happens. But 20 felt really nice because I really liked the way the side of the car was. Okay, this is interesting. So I'm gonna do 230, 240. So see this, whatever I have in my HDRI, I think it was just the background trees. They're kind of lying to me, making me think it's this tree and the kind of this tree reflecting on here, which is kind of neat. It's making it feel like it's planted in the scene a little better. And that's what it all comes down to, is just faking the look. So, okay, 255. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually duplicate this HDRI, because now V-Ray allows you to stack HDRIs. It's fantastic. So V-Ray Light 2, I am going to copy this HDRI over here. I'm going to put this inside of it. I do not want it to affect diffuse. I just want reflection and specular. And now I'm going to go back to 20. And so I'm just sprinkling now more reflections into the side. And I'll just make like a light power of 3. So it's not very big, but it's just giving me a little bit more excitement. And what I might do is exclude the floor. So I'm going to name this one floor. Now go in on HDRI 2, exclude floor. There we go. Now what I want to do is turn on the tail lights of my car, and just like the other video, my car is already prepped for easy rendering. So I'm just gonna click 1 on my V-Ray switch, and there you go, the tail lights are on. So now last but not least is blending the floor with the backplate. So I'm going to go into here and just go to city street, make it 0.9, 0.8. Let me see. So I got to figure out what we're doing. So it looks like we're a little too dark. So what I'm going to do is see effect diffuse on our 1 HDRI. I'm just going to bump that like 1.5, 1.3. Definitely making the car a little too bright. So what I'm going to do here is another, like, make this 3. Because remember, we have 2 HDRIs stacked now for the reflective properties. And now I could do a little override on just the diffuse. And that still is feeling a little too bright on the car itself for me. So I'm just going to go back. And then this is something I don't like doing, simply because I rather let the light naturally fill it in. So I'm going to bump up the RGB value of the map down here. And the reason why I don't really like doing this is sometimes it starts looking like it was pushed, like it makes the tones feel pushed. But we'll see how this works out. So I'll go back, enable color mapping with V-Ray RT turned off so it doesn't crash on me. So now what I want to do is take down some of these blue tones in the floor, because you can see, like, right here where this line is, where our ground and backplate blend, it's a little too cool. So I am just going to select it like this. There we go. Now just turn down the blues and a little bit of the greens. It's just, the goal is to make this line not existent. So go bump it up to 3. Maybe that's a little too bright now, 2.8. Okay, that's actually feeling pretty good. Let's take a look at the whole thing. All right, we're definitely getting there. 2.8, let's go back to 3. Maybe just a little bit more out of the blues and out of the greens. So there you go. It's not flawless. I could brush it out just gently in Photoshop, but overall it matches. Now there's a reason why I wanted that to happen. Firstly, we're going to do the same thing we've done on the other one. Turn on dim distance and make the floor a little bit of glossy. Make it like 0.8, 0.7. Hopefully this will not be affecting the final outcome because I do not want my floor to be affected by the HDRI, and it shouldn't be. So it's weird that I'm seeing the HDRI affect it. But we'll see what happens here in a second. And then the other reason why I like to make my ground planes work the way they do is now, if I was to create a light source, it will actually interact with the floor. So the reason why I mentioned that is I want my tail lights to be on, which they are, but I want them to actually throw a little light spill on the ground. So I'm just create a little plane, make it 180 degrees, put it roughly where the tail lights are. Visible, make it red. Let's do like 500. Let's do watts. For cutoff, make this 0. There we go. And then we might have just too much specular light, so I'm gonna turn that off for the moment. There's that. Make it a little smaller. Throw a little bit of a directional thing on it. Instance this light. Throw it back here. Now I wonder if these two HDRIs are screwing things up for me. So I'm going to turn it off and preview what's happening, because this highlight's feeling weird too. So we'll find out here in a second. If it is, I'll do a composite material. It doesn't really matter, because I'm still gonna throw the reflections into the side. So no, same results. All right, so it's both an instance. So 0. All right. Let's do this 0.2, 0.3. Gotta get these a little closer to the bumper so we get a little bit of an interaction with the actual car. There we go. Maybe even more. I'm gonna uncheck effect reflection because I don't want anything to reflect the squares. I just want the specular highlights and the diffuse to be affected. So maybe like 55 watts. So there we go. Now I'm going to try to bump up the glossy factor of the floor again. So see how we have this white highlight from the HDRI? I just want to figure out what the hell is happening here. So what I'm going to do is just a little region. I'm going to hit render. And I want to make sure my actual final render doesn't have it happening. Because if it does, then I won't use it. But if it doesn't, then we're good. So it is. It's somehow the HDRI is affecting it, which is kind of annoying. It shouldn't, but whatever. I'm not gonna try to figure this out right now, so no problem here. I'll just turn this off. Okay. All right, double HDRIs weren't a problem. Turn that back on. Turn on the preview, and I'm almost ready to render it. Gotta make sure the car feels planted and no weird visuals. All right, lens effects are on. Perfect. So let's see this little weird reflection. Let's see which HDRI is throwing it in there. Okay, it's my first one. So 255, 260. There we go. I didn't like that weird little blue thing. So we got a little bit of a hot spot right there. So 258. There we go. That feels nice. We don't have that nasty thing there. Everything feels good. What I might do is give the wheels a little bit of love. So going into my layers, I'm going to select this, create a selection set named wheels. There we go. Move this over to the side. Go into the top view, create a little light plane, add my wheels. Include, and Whoops, not in HDRI. And all I want to do now is throw a little bit of a highlight on the top of the tires. Something like this, just to make them pop a little bit, like so. So I'm going to do real zoom. Zoom in. And I feel like my tire's a little too washed out. So what I'll do is select these materials. And for tire tread itself, I don't need a complex material for this, so I'll just turn that down, make this really dark, and turn down the reflection properties, or tone it down. Because I still want some shape, but I don't want that much. And then for the sidewall, probably same thing, 0.8, make it a little glossier, a little more armor all on the sidewall. And there we go. So now we got the tires feeling a little bit juicy. All right, so let's see, 75. Just so we get a little bit of a kiss on the edge. There we go. Select copy. Kind of do the same thing on the fronts. And then maybe for temperature, instead of it being a neutral light, give it like a little bit of warmth to kind of blend with the backplate a little bit more. Lights, 5500. A little less intensity on the front. There we go. That's feeling good. And then the one thing what I want to do too, let's see how this will play off. Let's throw a little bit of a light spill on the back tire, kind of from the back side underneath. Like so. So let's move this one over. Kind of like this, but I'm going to make this really cool. I end up just having to go with a color of my own. So there we go. But as you can see, what that's helping doing is kind of blending the tire with the background a little bit more. Just the edge of it. So I'm gonna do something like this, just so it's kind of more of the rim lights getting kissed by the environment lights. So there we go. Undo that. Perfect. All right, so that's feeling really cool. Tail lights are on. We got a lot of sweet environmental things happening. We have the glow on the ground. I am pretty happy with how this is looking. Let's see if there's anything else we can do to spice it up. That might be good enough. What I might do is just give it like a 5-degree wheel turn. Nothing too aggressive, something just to give it a little bit of a sporty look. There we go. So that overall is feeling great to me. Steel's planted, we're good. Let's check the placement of the wheels. Since we are using our clean plate, it feels great. Like, actually, this is what I forgot. Let's see what happens here. Because we are using a shadow from that, I don't want to receive shadows. Typically, this is how I go with it, but as you can see, we might end up having to, because now we're using the shadow from the back plate, and to be honest, I don't mind what we have going on with our shadow. That doesn't feel bad at all. So I'm just going to leave it. But typically when I use AI generated backplates with shadows, I actually don't receive shadows on my ground plane. It just makes it easier to blend the two. So there we go. That in a nutshell is good to go to final. So I'm going to just render that out and throw a little post on it, and I'll record that process as well. Oh, and before I do that, there's one more thing I'm going to do. Going back to this, I want to check the depth of field. So as you can see, the focal point is kind of the tail light, and then it gets blurry over here. So I am going to do the same thing on ours, just to kind of help blend it into the backplate more. So go to select the camera, move my focal point kind of to that rear bumper, turn on depth of field, and maybe 3.5, 2.8. Let's see what 2.8 looks like, but I definitely want the front of the wheels to start feathering off, and that's just going to help blend it a little better into the AI backplate. So there we go. As you can see, now we're getting blurry, and maybe it's a little too much, 3.5. There we go. So that is good for me. I'm happy with that. That was the final step. Now I could render and go to retouch. So yeah. And it is done rendering. Now, the one thing I also like to do is I like to go in and render just the backplate. And it sounds silly, but sometimes, well, not sometimes, always, the backplate, even though the colors and everything match, the tone is just slightly different out of V-Ray than it is from the original foundation. Photoshop, Midjourney, camera, whatever it is, 3D Max and V-Ray, they can't get it to match apples to apples. I know Corona, they have the not shadow catcher, but there's some material. It's been like, I don't know, 8 years since I used Corona, something like that. But I know Corona has a way to make sure all the tones are always perfectly matching. With my workflow and the camera exposure, I don't have that in V-Ray. So, like I say, I just render a backplate just so I could kind of brush it in where needed. So, it's a quick little step. Not too bad, but it's something I do have to do. So, I'm going to just go ahead and save this into my 3D folder, just so I have it. Everything I work with is XREF, so my file size is seriously tiny. So, all right, open it up in Photoshop. Let me scale this out so it's on the screen. There we go. Perfect. Control, hit the alpha, do the car, because I'm EXRs, it's always 32-bit. So there we go. I'm going to throw in the background. Like that. Go in here. Now I am just going to brush it out where the car is, like so. And as you can see, I'm getting those tail lights on. I'm just going to feather it off. So there we go. That's done. Now what I did this time, because I'm learning from my mistakes with the new V-Ray update, is I rendered out a normals pass. Throw that in here. So firstly, I'm just going to make it like that. I don't need more. Select the... Actually, I'll just do the whole car for the moment and then see what it looks like. So, in the normals, I kind of want to shape the car a little bit more. Even though it doesn't really matter. Just let's see what this does. So, bump it up here. Sure it's all colored. Color range. Select the side. Want that body line to really pop. There we go. So you see before normals, after normals. Now I'm giving some shape to my car. Whoops. Color. I'm gonna make this little tail light area, rear diffuser, kind of stand out a little bit more. Again, throwing a little bit of like color spill into it just so it doesn't come off too fake. Even though it is, everything's fake, but whatever. There we go. No normals. Normals. Now what I do want is my wheels to pop a little more. So what I'll do is select red, and I guess I'll do blue as well. Duplicate it. There's different ways of doing this. You could work with alphas for just the wheels. When I'm in the moment doing quick retouching, I quick the selection sets like you see here on the normal side, and just I'm able to quickly isolate just the wheels and tires. So there we go. Now what I will do is just the rims alone. Like so, there we go. Color range. Let me see if I can select this top pocket area. Go. Now what I am going to do is give it a little bit of a contrast. There we go. All right, so my wheels are now just popping a little bit more. And I guess I'll open them up a bit. Like so. Now let's see what other alphas I have for the actual car. So I have the brake calipers. All right, so I have the forged carbon. So we will throw the glare pass in here, obviously. Love a good glare. Let's see what that feels like. Nice. I might duplicate it again just to really make these back things shimmer and pop. There we go. Maybe a little bit on the side of the car. All right, that's for later, so we'll just group that. Name it glare, hide it. All right. And then what I do want is to shape this back end a little bit more. The forged carbon. So, let's do this. Go. Normals, duplicate it. And then what I will do is just go in and delete some of these bits that are, if we do like shape it, it's just going to be a distraction. So let's do this. Open up the top of this. All right. And then I'm going to go for the bottom of the wing just to make sure it doesn't feel like a black hole back there or down there. So just like that. Now what I am going to do is see what it's doing over here, and I don't really want it to affect the bottom of the bumper. So I'm just painting that black. But as you can see, this just helps the spoiler stand out from the background. Just really get some love. Now, I don't know if I have an alpha for the chromes, at least not on this car. I don't think I do. So what I can do is a quick little fix. So do this, and then I think it's Control Alt or Control and Alt. There you go, like that. And then this way I can make the branding pop a little bit more, like that. There we go. Throw the glare on. And I am pretty happy with how that's looking. Now I'm just going to throw a little bit of a blur on the whole image just to help blend the pixels. And just like the other video, I am going to my go-to for the final kind of like sliders and all that. That's Exposure X. Because it's a nighttime shot, I am making the highlights or the brights really pop. There we go. And I'm just going to throw a little bit of this beautiful glow. I'm a sucker for this glare thing. It's not for everyone. Me, I really dig it. So there we go. And last but not least, throw a little bit of Color Effects Pro on it. And it's good to be posted. All right. So let's see here. Let's go to Glamour Glow, see if this does anything good or bad. Gonna go for cool. Nothing too crazy. Just gently sprinkle it in and do a little bit of a cross processing and see what kind of vibe this gets us. That feels interesting. There we go. I dig that. It's got a nice little cool vibe to it. Awesome. All right. Apply that and we are done. So there's another little random one-off tutorial of how to generate a backplate with an AI. I used Midjourney. You feel free to use whatever. And then my workflow from start to finish to rendering into an AI backplate with no provided HDRI. Hope it helps.